Welcome back to A Little Bit of Cheese, your bite-sized Wisconsin sports podcast. I'm your host, Cody Depius. That is Sam Douglas. It is a Wednesday show today, and once again, I'm going to say it, I'm happy that we waited another day because the Milwaukee Brewers have, for the first time in franchise history, swept the Los Angeles Dodgers at home. They've swept the Dodgers before in Los Angeles, but they haven't done it in Milwaukee yet. They finished that sweep off today. Jackson Chourio with the walk-off single in the 10th inning. Andrew Vaughn with his third big hit in 3 days as a Milwaukee Brewer. He had a 3-run home run to start off the series against Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Say that 10 times fast. Well done. Another big hit yesterday, and today was able to send the Crew into extra innings with a game-time single in the 10th inning. This is all because Rhys Hoskins on Sunday, we have a lot to cover here, so folks, just try to wrap your head around everything here. But Sunday, Rhys Hoskins sprained his thumb. He's going to be out for 6 weeks. I think that takes us to mid to late August. So Andrew Vaughn and Jake Bauers are going to have to hold down the fort over at first base. But this Brewers-Dodgers series, I want to get into it deep, but we got to go a little bit further back. And I want to say for the first time, Jacob Miziorowski, he did get touched up. That was the one big story last week, which touched up means he had one ground ball with 2 outs go off of the tip of his mitt. He probably shouldn't have touched it, but he did. Allowed everybody to be safe. And on the next batter that he pitched to, gave up a grand slam. And the next batter after that was Juan Soto. So another back-to-back home runs against Miziorowski. Gave up 5 runs, I think, in 4 innings. Wasn't great. Got touched up. It was okay. But then later in the week, Brewers taking 2 out of 3 against Miami. But the bookend game of that series was Brandon Woodruff's first Major League start in over 650 days. He went 6 innings, 2 hits, no walks, and 8 strikeouts. Sam, take us through what was going through your mind watching Brandon Woodruff back on the Major League mound again.
So back. Everybody who's talked to him, that's come out and had a conversation with Woodruff, is just, electrified after they talked to him. They say, this guy's ready. He's chomping at the bit. He's got the attitude, and it absolutely showed. He dialed up a little 96er to close off at the end of his stint. He was bringing in some heat, and he adds another element to this team. We talk about having ace stuff and having those top-of-the-line guys. If Brandon Woodruff is Brandon Woodruff, and, tape will come out, he'll get knocked around just like Miziorowski did. These guys will come out hot because you haven't seen his stuff in a couple of years. They'll see some tape, and he'll get hit a little bit more than he did on his first day. But if Brandon Woodruff is back, this Brewers' top 3 starters between Freddie Peralta, Jacob Miziorowski, and Brandon Woodruff, we have one all-star, and he might be the third best out of those 3 guys.
You're not wrong.
And This pitching staff is just electric. And Jacob Miziorowski he's not a flash in the pan. Woodruff is not a flash in the pan. It wasn't an accident that Woodruff comes out and is absolutely electrifying. We know Freddie can deal 6 real solid innings against the Dodgers. I mean, between the 3 of them, this is just awesome. This is what I wanted to see as we head into a postseason, when you're not hoping that between DL Hall and Jared Koenig you can get a handful of quality outs. No, you have someone that you can hang your hat on, and Brandon Woodruff has absolutely changed the dynamic of this team. And just like we saw hitters get stoked to have Miziorowski's back, this is just another thing that's going to translate into more offense for the Brewers, man. I'm so stoked for the jolt, the electricity that this brought in. And I know we'll talk a little bit more about Miz, but you talk about a little bit of electricity, the fist pumping when he closed out the 6th the other day. There's vibes on this Brewers team, and it's showing up on offense because of the pitching staff.
Yeah, and you're just starting to see this team play the way that we expected them to. I mean, you and I both felt a little bit stupid probably for the first 6 weeks of this season for the Brewers, because that team was so mediocre. It was hard to watch. Like, I saw tweets that said this is the most uninspired Milwaukee Brewers team I've seen in over a decade. And I don't know if I disagreed with those tweets at the time when they were written, but now we're sitting at this point where there are too many starting pitchers for the Milwaukee Brewers to figure it out. They've already had to trade away Aaron Savali. They've already had to send down Logan Henderson and Chad Patrick, two guys that have looked great. They've already sent down Tobias Myers, who was your second best pitcher in the rotation last year. Some people probably would have argued that he was your ace going into the end of last year. So those are three guys that are serviceable major league starters. You have Nestor Cortez waiting on the doorstep. There's too many guys. This is a good problem to have. But Jacob Miziorowski, and I want to emphasize this too, like what was said about him yesterday, I'm trying to find a tweet that was from Pedro Martinez. I just got it here. And Pedro Martinez had as good of a peak as a major league pitcher as anybody. He's a great MLB analyst. I actually just watched the Comeback on the Netflix series. That's about the 2004 Boston Red Sox. If you're a baseball fan and you haven't seen it, please go watch it. It's awesome. It is so cool. Not a Red Sox fan, but seeing the Yankees go down when you have A-Rod, Derek Jeter, Gary Sheffield, and all those tools in the lineup, it was pretty cool. But Pedro Martinez on Jacob Miziorowski said, quote, Jacob Miziorowski is special. He's got velocity, movement, and that bulldog mentality. Him, Paul Skeens, and Tarek Skubal look like the future of pitching to me. Long legs, long arms, built to dominate. Hashtag MLB on TBS. And that's just one of the legends that was speaking out on Jacob Miziorowski. You can just turn on the radio. Even today, Jeff Levering said it, and this is a day after Miziorowski is starting. They're just flat out saying, I have never seen anybody do the things that he can do on a major league mound, ever. And I agree. And he did it yesterday against one of the greatest pitchers of all time in Clayton Kershaw. And don't get me wrong, Kershaw's up in age, and he's not the pitcher he used to be. And Kershaw actually pitched really, really well yesterday. Miziorowski gave up a home run to the first hitter that he faced, but then went on to strike out 12 batters in 5 innings and got through the 6th without allowing another run after that Ohtani home run. I was out at a bar and grill with my buddy who's a Cubs fan. He gave up the first batter home run to Ohtani, and he was up my feet. He's like, oh, Jacob Miziorowski, future Hall of Famer, huh? He can't even get past Ohtani. Jacob Miziorowski then continued to shove that down his throat, any Cubs fan's throat, and the entire Los Angeles Dodgers roster for the next hour and a half of their lives, made it a living hell, shut them up, won the series, and then the crew went out there today and swept. You said it perfectly. You have 3 guys, one's an all-star, and Freddie's the one I think I feel least comfortable with right now. And he's got a 2.74 ERA.
Yeah, Freddie's pitching is freaking butt off right now. But just the juice behind Woody and Miz he's in conversation with Tarek Skubal and Paul Skeens. It doesn't get much better than that. It really, really doesn't. It felt like to me that hung curveball to Shohei, because that's not the pitch he wanted to throw. You got to have that down. He did not want to throw a curveball flat center over the plate. That might have been good for him. It might have been good for him on the day, all things considered. You know what? We're playing against the Dodgers because after Shohei, you got Paez, then you got Will Smith, then you got Freddie, then you got Mookie somewhere, and it's just an absolutely stacked lineup, and they keep coming at you. And he gave up that first homer, and I think he locked in. I can't be 2 inches off anymore. If I hang something over the plate, it's gonna get walloped. But he didn't start throwing balls. He wasn't pitching around guys. He just turned it up a little bit. I think out of his first 35 pitches, it was 31 strikes and 4 balls. And it's just all over the plate, painting the corners, 102 here, 87 curveball there. If it's off the plate, they're swinging because you got to sit 102. And it's just filthy. It felt like that first home run really locked him in, and it paid off because the next 9 outs in a row were all strikeouts.
It was like MLB The Show. It was like watching a video game. It's crazy.
It's the comebacks, and I talked about this after his first day ever. He let a couple runners on. I think he was in 3 or 4 situations where there was a runner on first with 1 out or less, and then immediately it's 2 low pitches to get a grounder and a double play. And I was like, you know what? He's coming back from his issues, and that's what you got to see out of a starting pitcher.
Yeah.
His last time he was on the mound, he got rocked. He got rocked pretty good. That was the first time in pro baseball where he ever really got rocked. And he comes back, first batter, home run. What's he do to respond? Absolutely turn it up. In the 6th inning, there was a couple runners on, no outs. Responded, got us out of that jam. Hats off to Andrew Vaughn getting us out of that as well. But the recovery from being in difficult situations, that makes a starting pitcher just as much as 102.5 does.
Oh, it makes it more of a starting pitcher. And Clayton Kershaw, who is the counterpart in that game, is a perfect example. I can't remember the last time I've seen Clayton Kershaw throw a fastball over 95 miles an hour, like ever. He was never the guy that was touching triple digits or even 98 or 99. It was, where do you throw it? How good is your stuff? And that's how you get those long sustained careers. And right now, Miziorowski, and this goes along with your Tarek Skubal and your Paul Skeens, they have these physical capabilities that are so much higher than anybody else in baseball, but they also have the command and the location and the mentality that puts them up. And this is, okay, we're, 4 or 5 starts into Miz's career? It might be a little early to say right now that Miziorowski is in that tier, but through those 5 starts, he's certainly pitching like it. And you don't know, like, you feel like you've seen the ceiling, and that ceiling is 6 innings, shutout ball, going out there against one of the best rosters in baseball, shoving, giving your team a series win. I want to see playoff Miz. And that's what it is. And I know you texted me this week that you were concerned about the bullpen later on and that you might want to see Miziorowski come out and pitch a 9th inning. I want Miziorowski coming out and giving us 6 or 7 innings in game 2 of the series. Whatever series that may be, that's where you're getting your value out of him. And that might even, who knows?
He's game 1, isn't he? He's game 1, isn't he?
No, there's not. This is not Major League. He's not Rick Vaughn. This isn't. No, you have Trevor McGill, who also, by the way, today looked like a flippin' animal out there. The guy on with the ghost runner on second. And I mean, I've continued to say it, like, I think Uribe is more of a closer or a better closer than McGill. I think McGill's still a top 10 closer in baseball. I just think Uribe would be like a top 5 closer in baseball. Like, you're splitting hairs when it comes to this, but in all honesty, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I trust those 2 guys with the 8th and the 9th. And the middle, that's where you find your problems. And it was actually the 7th inning today, as Sam and I were texting back and forth this week. He was asking which inning was the one we give the most runs up in. And as of, I think it was Sunday when we were watching that Woodruff game, it was the 7th inning. They gave up 0.6 runs per game in the 7th inning. And that's going to be an interesting one. I think a lot of it's going to fall on where Pat Murphy feels comfortable with this bullpen, because he pitches Nick Mears in a lot of situations that I think are funny, and he doesn't need to be pitching him in. And Jared Koenig some days looks like a monster, like he has the last 2 days, or he looks like an average to below average relief pitcher. And who knows?
Ashby
I think
had a bad day today.
What'd you say?
Ashby finally had a bad day today too.
Ashby did have a bad day. I mean, it was almost like he pitched 40 pitches in a 9-run ball game 2 days ago. Cough, Murphy figured out. Come on. Things like that I'm talking about. Like, you have to, I think Ashby could be a flipping hammer in the back end. I think he could be your 7th inning. I always go back and I think of Andrew Miller when he had that playoff run. I can't even remember who it was for. I think it was Cleveland. The year Cleveland lost to Chicago in the World Series back in 2016. Andrew Miller was on top of the world. He might have been the most talked about player in all of baseball, because you knew in every game that lefty was coming out of the bullpen, 3/4 slot, wicked slider, and you had nothing that you could do against him. He was going to go 1 or 2 innings, and you could just put up zeros for it. I think Ashby has the potential to do that. Today, command wasn't there. He spikes a lot of curveballs, and I don't know. I don't know what's happening with this seventh.
So I'll tell you exactly what's happening with this seventh.
Mm.
And we see it when we go up against a team like the Dodgers, and this is what's going to make a difference when you get into the playoffs and you're playing everybody at their best level of baseball. All the studs are out, all the chips are on the table. I'm taking a walk. I don't care if I'm Shohei Ohtani, like I'm ready to take a walk. There's a difference between ace level stuff and a good pitcher. Nick Mears is throwing good pitches today. Ashby was throwing decent pitches today, but they were chipping them off. They were hitting them foul. They were going deep into the pitch counts, so full counts for both of them across the board. Handful of walks, and it's a changeup that's just dipping right off the plate. It's a fastball that's high, and it's a lot of the same types of throws that we've been seeing Freddie and Miz and Uribe throw, but they've got a little bit less speed, they've got a little bit less command, and when you see a team like the Dodgers, that 5% difference between your dogs and your Aaron Ashby's, Jared Cannings of the world, is the difference between getting that ground ball to shortstop or loading the bases with no outs. And it wasn't much. We got out of the jam a little bit, but that sac fly because they took a couple walks because our seventh inning wasn't ace level stuff. And then you bring in McGill and he shuts him down. And you see what I'm saying? That 5% changes everything. And I just think we're very, very vulnerable in that seventh inning when we're going from ace stuff to the Uribe McGill eighth, ninth. I want to see a starter go 6.1 and have Uribe go 1.2, McGill 1.1, something like that. Because we brought Grant Anderson in today in a really close game with the Dodgers that we all really wanted to sweep them, and we're rolling out Grant Anderson. Like, I just don't think that that's the answer when it comes to playoff ball. I see a really vulnerable spot for us in that seventh inning outside of Uribe. There's not another ace that I can count on in the seventh, eighth inning.
I'm really, and maybe I'm higher on this, but do you know what Nick Mears' numbers looks like this year?
It's probably all right, man.
His numbers are like identical. You can put him right next to Trevor McGill.
They're
fair, like
but
peripherals, like everything, like it. I think Nick Mears is your seventh inning guy. I don't want Nick Mears pitching in games that you're losing. I don't want Nick Mears pitching in blowouts. And I have seen Pat Murphy use him in both of those situations. And I think that needs to stop. Where he actually stopped. I was saying it early in the season. I said Abner Uribe should never pitch earlier than the eighth inning. I think I even said seventh inning because he brought him out in the fifth inning. I remember one game in St. Louis. But he's figuring it out. You bump those guys. You got your two back ends right now. And things are a little bit up in the air in that seventh inning. I think you have an inning where you think you're going to be in benefit of having a lefty. I think Rob Zastryzny, who is going to be coming back soon, I think he might be that answer over Aaron Ashby, where I think Nick Mears is going to be your take on righties.
For a regular season game, I think that's just fine to get through a Tuesday afternoon. But if I'm watching that game and it's a playoff game, and I think you're right there with me, we see Grant Anderson or just Strinsky coming out when you can just get two more outs from Uribe or ask one more out from McGill on the backside, I think we're livid with that decision.
Do you know what my rebuttal to that is? Who would have been the perfect closer to have on the Milwaukee Brewers last year with a one-run lead going into the ninth inning against the Mets last year? It was Devin Williams. Devin Williams had a .2 ERA in the season. Yeah. Sometimes it doesn't matter. Sometimes and I think they're good enough. And you can look at bullpens across baseball right now. Nobody has the seventh inning figured out. There's not a single team that feels like.
It's just ironic that this is today when we just got blown up in the seventh inning, right?
And they gave up a run. They gave up one run in the seventh inning.
Worse. That should have been
it could have been, but they gave up one run. I'm not going to say they blew it up. They gave up a one-run lead. That's what happened. and they were able to come back from it. But it was the extra arms. They came in. I think they're there. I think the bullpen's going to be deep enough. I don't know who's getting moved to it too, because you have somebody that's in this starting rotation right now, or Nestor Cortez, who's on the doorstep, that is going to be in that bullpen later. I'm not saying give the 7th inning to Nestor Cortez. That's not what I'm saying. But I think there is somebody. It might be Logan Henderson. I think Logan Henderson would profile awesome as a 7th inning reliever. I think there are a couple guys in that rotation that I would trust to do that. And right now, I don't think the bullpen is where we find our concern, because there's also a trade deadline coming up, and they always pick up an arm. And I don't know who that's going to be. I remember Joaquin Soria was that guy back in 2018. He was awesome. He was lights out. And then I remember... I can't remember who it was now that I have his face in my mind, but they brought him in like 3 years ago, I think, for that end of 2022. And he was just unpitchable. Like, sometimes things work and sometimes things don't work. Last year, they brought in Nick Mears in the tie ball game against the Mets. And we were like, what the heck is this? This is crazy. And then he struck out the side. Like, it just happens. It's just baseball. I think Mears has that little bit of juice. And I think that there are the guys, I think the horses are there. I think the biggest problem with this team in the separator was said by Jeff Passan on MLB Network. And he said, this Brewers roster is one big bat away from being an actual World Series contender. You're not looking at this rotation. You're not looking at this bullpen as your problem. You're looking at the fact that you don't have that guy that anybody's thinking of intentionally walking in the middle of this Brewers lineup, whatever situation it may be. And I
wouldn't be pitching to Churio in a clutch moment anymore.
I mean, he's still hitting like 255. It's like there's a point, and I think Churio could be that guy by the end of the year. If he gets hot like he did at the end of last year, those numbers are going to look like 285 with darn near 30 home runs, and by the time he gets to the playoffs, you are thinking about it. But until it happens, I'm not going to say that he's there. I mean, Christian Yelich has been hitting like it in the past probably month and a half, and this is probably my first cheese grater question. I'm just going to throw it in here because it just fits. Should we be expecting more of William Contreras, or should we just be content with whatever this is for the rest of the year?
I've got a fun Contreras note.
Okay.
If the bat, we're giving a lot of love to this pitching staff. Contreras is having an awesome time back there, man. At what point does William Contreras get a little bit of love for what this pitching staff is doing? You know, he's calling. He blocked probably 143 balls today. You know, if the bat isn't there, the defense is still there for him, which makes him just incredibly valuable. He does have a hand in this pitching dominance that we have seen. Even though we roll Haas out with Miziorowski a couple times, which I've not been a fan of.
Can't catch every day, man.
I think just exactly how you felt with Yelly at the beginning of the year. This isn't going to go on. He's still someone I have all the confidence of the world in come the playoffs, someone I want to see step up to the plate. I'm not uneasy thinking, let's get lucky, you know, when Contreras steps up. You kind of wish he would have dealt with the thumb a little bit earlier, but you know, I think here we are. The guy's clearly gotten it out. He's playing awesome defense, and I think hats off to Contreras for the contribution that he does have.
He's done a lot better not calling just fastballs. That was a huge thing last year. Like I listened to Brewers Fanatic, and they talked about it every week. They're like, William does not want to stop calling fastballs in every freaking count. And this year he switched it up. I mean, you got a bunch of guys with a bunch of filth, so it makes it a lot easier for him. But yes, he has done an incredible job back there, and Eric Haas has too. I mean, when he comes in, you know a good game's going to be called. So I'm okay with it. Hey, Haas has made you eat your words a couple of times this year.
Yes.
I remember he texted, why is Eric Haas hitting today? It was against Paul Skeens. He's like, why is Haas in? Then Haas had to go ahead RBI. And I was like, hey, keep giving him crap. It works, man. Negativity is positivity. That's one of our brands.
As far as that's funny that you mentioned Contreras calling fastballs, because one of my favorite moments of today's game was the last pitch of the game as McGill is striking out the side. He struck out all three batters in the 10th inning. Heaters across the board. So the third guy up, he's throwing almost nothing but fastballs, all 100 plus. I don't think he threw a single 99. Couple 102s in the day. And it's an 0-2 count, 2 outs, and he shakes off the pitch, shakes off the next one, gives him 101 upstairs, and makes Edmund look real bad. Contreras was calling for something breaking. Contreras was calling for a slider. He was calling for the curveball or something like that. And McGill's like, no, dude, I'm gassed. We're going up. Just give me a high fastball. And he shook it off, and he decided that he's going upstairs with another 101 and the juice after that, man. That was awesome.
Yeah, it's those moments, and I feel that worry with McGill, but every closer makes you worry a little. I mean, like I said, I've watched Devin Williams, I've watched Josh Hader, I've seen all those guys blow saves when it comes to the playoffs. Sometimes it might be the unsung hero. It might be an Andrew Miller, who you might not even remember his name when I said it earlier today. Did you remember Andrew Miller?
The name rang a bell, but it could have been, you could have told me that he was anybody ever, and I would have believed you.
But that a guy like that can take a team to the World Series just by being him in the bullpen. And that hero, I think, could come out of it. I don't know if they go and get anybody in the trade deadline, but I like that you brought up the Heat. Yesterday, the average fastball of all 4 Milwaukee pitchers was over 99 miles per hour. It was the highest average fastball from one rotation in one game in the entire StatCast history, which means it was probably the fastest pitched game ever. Like just heaters. They averaged 99. It was Uribe, Miziorowski, Koenig, and McGill. And it was
that's so junky, dude. That's one of those that you kind of wonder when and if it'll get broken. I mean, all the pitchers are throwing fast, but in order to get that 99 plus velo, your starter has to be throwing 50 plus, 100 plus mile an hour balls or something silly like that.
Yeah.
That might hang out as a record for a little bit.
Yeah, I'd give it a few years until they get another one of these flamethrowers that comes up with the Milwaukee Brewers system. But yeah, it's all been awesome stuff. And Jackson Chourio walked it off today to sweep the series. I didn't even get to talk about Joey Ortiz like being benched twice in the last week, even though he was hot. And his approach at the plate has looked terrible. Pat Murphy said, well, they asked him, why is Joey sitting again today? And he said, well, the manager's pissed. And
yeah,
he's talking about himself. Oh, there was another Pat Murphy quote. Do you have it real quick, Sam? It was about Jacob Miziorowski.
Oh, he's gooey, isn't he? Yeah, he's fresh out the shell.
I'll find it. I got the exact quote right here. Yep.
Right now.
Wait, actually, I lied. It was just before. Here it is. This is Pat Murphy on Jacob Miziorowski. He's just broken the shell, man. He's just out of the egg, all arms and legs. He's got all the gooey stuff coming off him. He's something special.
Chill, Pat.
Pause. Not going to talk about Prince Fielder's interview this week where he was talking about the ESPN body issue. And they're like, how did you prep for it? He's like, I don't know. I was just all oiled up and ready. All right, we'll go on to the cheese grater. We'll let you kick it off as I gave you the William Contreras question before.
Trevor McGill is 4th in the MLB, 1st in the NL right now in saves with 22. Who has the most ever before an All-Star game? What do you think the number is?
Who has the most? I would guess, I know Eric Gagne won a Cy Young as a closer back in 2003 with the Dodgers.
And I would guess Eric Gagne had 32 before the All-Star break, but he is not the most ever.
Okay. It's probably not a Brewer because, I mean, I know John Axford had a season of over 40, but other than that, there's not a ton. I think I'm going to wave the white flag. Maybe K-Rod. It was K-Rod back when he pitched for Los Angeles. Or it was Anaheim.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was with 38 of them before the All-Star break.
He had 60 that year, I'm pretty sure. Might have even been more than that.
That's filthy.
Yeah, K-Rod popped up on a list this week from John Heyman. He released the list, which was kind of funny because it was after all the Epstein list stuff was hitting the news. They're like, this is a list that John Heyman just posted and deleted. And they're like, that's not the Epstein list. We all think it was the steroid list or whatever from the early 2000s, but we don't care anymore about steroids. K-Rod, I will love you forever until I die. Is this pitching staff truly built for the World Series?
It can be, yes.
Okay.
If it's managed properly and we figure out that seventh inning.
Yeah.
I want to see 1.2 from Uribe and 1.1 from McGill.
That will never happen. In any modern Major League Baseball rotation, you will never see two guys pitch both 1 point innings like every game. They'll give them clean innings, and I'm okay. You get more games out of them, though. That's the thing. You get more games if they only go one inning.
Why? It's one out, and as far as McGill is concerned, you get one out, then you go sit down for a little bit. You get a break.
But you have your arm warm for longer, like time-wise. You have more lactic acid build up in the arm.
For one out. This is playoff baseball. That's what I'm talking about. I think like when it's playoff baseball, we got to get juicy with it. Yeah, I think there's enough depth there to cover if we do need a bullpen day. If Freddie gets rocked in the third inning, if Woodruff is just getting blown up or something like that, we have the depth to get through that and then still power through the next game. I think sometimes, and that's what helped the Brewers today. We had their starter, we had Glasnow up to like 40 some pitches in the second inning, and they didn't have their closer in the 10th because they had to get him in earlier in the 8th because the pitch count just was up for the Dodgers. Like this Brewers team was like tactical with the win today. It looked like
that goes back to him kicking the crap out of him on Monday, where they they had to throw a lot of pitchers they shouldn't have thrown. Yeah, Yamamoto was out in the second inning.
I saw a really neat Brewers Bucks article that said that the Bucks have turned down a lot of trades because teams are trying to get AJ Green. I personally love that the Bucks are willing to make trades. They're trying to get Kuzma, and people are saying we want AJ Green, and the Bucks are just shutting it down, saying no, that's our guy. Are there any Brewers prospects that you feel that way about? You don't want to see Jesus Mate get thrown around in a trade as the deadline's approaching. Do the Brewers have any prospects that you're thinking are just untouchable?
Mate, Ortiz, and Pratt. Everybody else, I'll say any pitcher, I think at this point, go at it. Even Logan Henderson and Chad Patrick. If a team wants to take a flyer on them, like to be their fourth starter to go into the end of the year, absolutely. But you do not touch Mate, you do not touch Pena, and you do not touch Cooper Pratt. I need those guys to take over at shortstop and third base because Milwaukee has not found their answer there yet, and I don't think they're going to. Blake Burke, don't touch Blake Burke either. He's a big first base prospect who's playing in Appleton right now. Big fella. Athlete, though. Can kind of move. He's got the wheels. He's got a pretty swing, too. Don't touch those
Blake
guys.
Burke. Noted.
Tennessee. He's a NCAA World Series champion, actually. I think he was the second-round pick last year. This one maybe gets you back. Go back into the tapes here. What is your most memorable Brewer game? You can give me any reason, positive, negative. I was there. I was watching on TV. Whatever it may be. Well, what's just one that will always stick with you more than any other?
I was at a playoff game, wild card playoff game, Brewers Cardinals when I was a young lad. Ryan Braun hit a big shot. That was a memorable game. The one that I probably hold the fondest, I went with my two brothers. Brewers got routed by the Astros. I believe ended up losing that game 16-1. We spent the last 7 innings of that game about 3 rows behind home plate because the rest of Milwaukee had left.
What year was that?
Man, it might have been 06, 07. So it was back. We were young, and it was the oldest brother Tyler was in charge of babysitting Tony and I, and
nice.
Half of Milwaukee was already gone by about the 3rd inning. So we're like, all right, let's go find some really good seats down there.
That's awesome. I love it.
I'm out of graders.
You're out of graders.
Out of graders.
Hey, it was a great day. You got about 50 seconds here. State of the Union for the Bucks, other than your AJ Green comment.
State of Union for the Bucks. Re-signed Ryan Rollins. That's huge. That's just another John Horse awesome move between Rollins, KPJ, Bobby. Dude, we're just seeing a lot of player-friendly deals. The Bucks are cooking. The media wants Giannis out. Giannis released his new shoe. Tell you what, this shoe has been in the works for quite some time. And everyone this offseason has been wondering what Giannis is thinking about Milwaukee. On the bottom of the shoe is the skyline of Milwaukee. The guy was never going anywhere. He'll be going anywhere soon. The Antetokounmpo Zoom 3 has Antetokounmpo on the bottom, shaded in with the Milwaukee skyline. I think that's a little piece of cool.
Yeah, I've hopped on the boat with you. Now whenever I see any of the Giannis wants out, like even when Dame Lillard was gone, they're like, dude, there's no way that Giannis leaves. And I was like, I think Giannis actually probably likes this a little bit more, to be honest. Like now that they have a chance to win. So I laugh at it. It's funny, and that makes it really funny. Giannis, he ain't going anywhere. Well, that'll do it for us this week. We'll see you guys again next week. I'm Cody, that's Sam, and this has been another edition of A Little Bit of Cheese, your bite-sized Wisconsin sports podcast.